Hi guys, if you are working in the construction industry and thinking about collaborating digitally or starting to get into digital collaboration, then this video is going to really help you. We have got the top 5 tips to help you succeed. So today we are joined by Don Jacob, who is Chief Technology Officer of a company called Bluebeam. Thank you so much for being with us today, Don. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just to give you a bit of context, Bluebeam software is currently used by 1.1 million people worldwide and in 130 different countries. And get this, 94% of the top US contractors are using Bluebeam. So Don certainly comes with quite a high pedigree and probably knows a lot more about this subject area than I do, but we'll probably see that come out as we go through the video. So before we get into this in any more detail, Don, what do we mean by digital collaboration?
So digital collaboration is being able to get access to that information, everybody on the project team being able to get access to that information so that the job can get done, can move faster, decisions can be made. It's really about getting that information no matter where you are, whether you're around the world or just down the street from each other, but being able to see that same information and being able to empower everybody on the project team to know that they have that information that they can use to make the decisions to get the project keep on moving.
Absolutely, and I guess digital collaboration is really coming to the fore now with new technologies. You know, the days of us all being in the same room for a design team meeting are kind of over, and people can collaborate virtually from London to New York to Sydney. So it's really becoming more and more widespread in the industry.
Yeah, you're lucky if you're in the same room anymore. It really is truly an international endeavor to complete these projects.
Absolutely. So that's a bit about what digital collaboration actually means, but without further ado, let's dive into the tips. So our first tip is to make sure that you work in a common data environment, but let's hold it right there. What do we mean by common data environment?
So a common data environment is that centralized, singular source of truth for the project. You know, oftentimes if you take something, historically we've been taking paper and bringing it out into the field, and the problem with that is my version may be separate from your version, and what we're building to is different. And really when you centralize that information in an electronic form where you have everybody on the project contributing to that, and you're controlling the versioning so that you know that everybody's looking at the same set of information. That's really, I think, the power of that common data environment.
So really, when we say common data environment, I mean, it's quite a techie term that we sort of pass around in the industry, but really it's nothing complicated. It's an environment that holds data that's common to everyone. So the right people in the project team can access the information at the right time. And the other point I think as well is that common data environments don't have to cost you a lot of money. I think people think they can have to spend tens of thousands of pounds on these sorts of things. But actually we're talking about something that could be as simple as a server, as Google Drive, as Dropbox or something like that, particularly for smaller projects.
It's really about the type of information and what is the best system that can contain that information.
Tip 2 is all about being able to access your information. Now, it may sound obvious, but you need to choose a platform or an application where you can actually get access to your documents, either in the office, either out on the field, out on site, or when you're traveling and when your project teams are based around the world.
The time factor is crucial. So you don't have time to go back to even the job site trailer, or heaven forbid, back into the office. So definitely, that getting access to everyone, no matter who you are on that project is crucial.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think it's for me, it's about inclusivity. It's about not the really expensive high-end licenses that only the very sort of high echelons of the project team can access. This is about bringing it right down into the field, into the supply chain, and even to the client side as well, so that people that wouldn't necessarily have the full-blown project licenses or access to all the stuff that goes with a common data environment can still get in and see the information that they need at the right time.
Right, and understand how the project is going.
So our third tip is to establish protocols, and perhaps more importantly, to actually stick to them. So it's really important to lay some ground rules when you get your CDE set up, especially when you've got lots of other people collaborating around the world, all uploading information. You need to make sure you've got your file naming conventions right, you've got upload locations properly agreed, it's determined who has access to what and when and what level of permissions, all that sort of stuff. This may sound incredibly dull, and to be honest, it is a bit dull going through and enforcing this kind of stuff, but it really does lay a good bedrock for your project, doesn't it?
You know, from an accountability standpoint, being able to standardize on the documents and the processes for reviewing and commenting on the documents. So as the projects start to adopt the techniques and approaches for standardizing on the process, you can really start to benefit from that, and the tools really enable that. So applications like Bluebeam Review, from a markup standpoint, really help projects standardize on the methodology for being able to mark up documents. You can have one trade use a standard set of coloring for being able to add the comments, while you may have the designer or architect using another set of colors for being able to add their comments. And by being able to set up these standards and practices for collaborating, it just helps the process go that much quicker.
So tip 4 is about working with a universal file format, and this is really important when you've got lots and lots of people collaborating in a digital space, and particularly where everyone won't have the same extent of setup. And this really, for me, leads on to the idea of interoperability and the subject of interoperability. I know it's a very techie word. What that basically means is the ability for systems to communicate. So if an architect has developed something in a very high-end authoring tool like ArchiCAD or Revit, and they send it to another member of the design team or someone in the supply chain, does that person have the capability to open that file and see it from their end?
I think that's where PDF, the portable document format, really comes into play. Is that you have that familiarity of the paper, the drawing, which really kind of powers a project, but in an electronic form, so that you can publish out of these very high-end authoring tools, but distribute to the entire project team that information set that's interrelated, that's referenced in such a way that the information can be delivered in that familiar format. It's kind of the best of both worlds.
Definitely. I think with the rise of building information modeling, BIM, I think this is becoming more and more prevalent. I think some people think that they have to have their own licenses for these very high-end authoring tools to be able to see the model, to see the graphical representation of the model, when actually there are free viewers available for those platforms. And there's also systems like Bluebeam, but also the 3D PDF feature as well.
PDF is a great container format for being able to capture that drawing design information, as well as the 3D model information, as well as that downstream information that often needs to make it back into the project information.
Definitely. So I think that's the real big takeaway from this. It's one thing being able to access and collaborate digitally, but really you need to think about everybody that's involved and how they're going to be actually able to see and open these files. It sounds really simple, it sounds like a straightforward thing, but it's pretty fundamental to getting stuff done and to collaborating digitally. So our final tip, and probably the most important one for me, is to communicate. And this is even more important in a digital environment than in a more traditional setting. Particularly as you're going to have teams working remotely and working in different parts of the world potentially, it's really important that you communicate, share information, and just talk to each other. The big thing to remember here is that we're talking about digital collaboration, but really this comes back down to people. You've got people working on a project team, working together. They're the ones that are going to drive this forward. So don't think of these digital tools as replacing people, as somehow making it this sort of virtual world where people don't exist, where there isn't much interaction happening. It's all driven by people, and you need to communicate.
Yeah, those are great points. One of the key aspects that I think the technology is providing today is that democratization of everyone's voice on the project. So whether you're in the field, you're back in the design firm, the applications capture that information and track who said what and when, and it's that ability to be able to capture, organize, and record all that information today, tomorrow, and in the future that really helps increase the fidelity of the project.
Well, I think one thing we should underline is something went back to and mentioned earlier on, one of the earlier tips, is the thing about protocols. So when you have got these common areas for your communication and you've got lots of people involved who are able to communicate at the same time, it's about setting the protocols for what's spoken about in which feed, in which channel, in which sort of stream, and what is okay to exchange and what's not to exchange. Because obviously if you've got 20, 30 people on a communication tool, and 2 people start talking about their weekend or what they're doing that evening, it can be it can drive us mad, can't it? Yeah. So the big takeaway from that, guys, is to communicate. It's even more important in a digital environment than it was in a more traditional setting. Don't forget that it's all about people. People are driving this forward. This is just a different way of talking to people, and make sure you get some protocols in place, otherwise it will drive you mad.
Yeah, so those are some great points, and really what the common data environment enables is collaboration. It's really ultimately about being able to collaborate on the project. It's an enabler for getting that information in a unified way to everyone on the project so that those decisions can be made that accelerate the project, get it completed on time and on budget.
Definitely, and I think the points you've made today are really going to set people up, particularly people at the beginning of the process maybe haven't done this before, set them up in the right way to successfully collaborate in a digital environment with their project teams. So thanks. Yes. Thank you so much for being with us today, Don. We've really appreciated it. I think your input has been absolutely priceless. Don't forget, if you've got any questions you want to ask Don or I, just pop them in the comments below and we'll get back to you. And if you enjoyed this video and would like to get more from our platform, don't forget you can subscribe free to the B1M.